Hello again. Ready to learn something new? Well, maybe not new, but a new way of doing something with this Optivisor. As you know, I like to mess with things and make them hopefully more usable. For example, using a neck gaiter to make this more comfortable. Wing nuts in order to make the lenses easier to take on and off. You've seen the Optivisor one possibly. So today I'm going to add a lens. And you're like, well, why would you do that? Well, you can multiply these lenses, and I've seen these on other visors, such as like Harbor Freight has one that the lenses just kind of fold down. Well, I don't want to mess with those. I like high quality optics, and Dunnigan Optical is high quality. So I like to be able to do quickly between magnifications too. This is actually a 5 lens, this one's a 3. You can put these two together, and if you have the right spacing, it does just fine. It changes your focal point a little bit, gets closer as it gets higher magnification, as you would imagine. What I've done here is, and I'm going to show you how to do, is we're going to put this lens with magnets on top and in front. So I can take the lens from here, put it on there, and vice versa, to magnify both eyes at the same time at the same place, and then take them back off if I need to. This is good for certain tasks that I do a lot of over and over again. I really need to zoom in, but I don't like just closing one eye or, like using a loop. This is quick. So I'm going to show you how to do this real quick. I've got all my spare little parts here, nuts and bolts and Harbor Freight magnets, and razor blade to open this package because it's like impossible. Piece of tubing, and I'm going to get to all the sizes here, and I'm going to show you how to do all this. Some bolts and nuts that I got from the hardware store. I'll give you those sizes too. And all this coming together in just a second. Let me organize this and we'll continue on. Okay, time to play. All right, I got my gauge here and all my little parts. So what we're going to do is, the magnets don't do real well. That's not the right one. There we go. As far as if you want to weld a magnet on, good luck with that. This little piece of tubing just almost fits this nut and these magnets, which I'm about to open. I have a few of those here already, as you can see. They're lost in there. But anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to use this little piece of tubing as a sleeve to hold the magnet onto the nut. This tubing is 1.5 millimeters thick. It is 9.4 outside diameter. Oops, sorry. And looks like about a 7 millimeter inside diameter. I'm not being too aggressive. That's about 7. So 7 inside diameter. Now, the nuts we're using are 7.8. So these are a little bit bigger than the tubing. And this is just a clear poly tube I got from the hardware store where I got the nuts from. And that in mind, what we're going to do is we're going to change out the bolts used. What we want are these flat bolts. The Phillips, doesn't have to be, just so I have a flat head, because I want room for the magnet to stick on there. Yikes. Anyway, and same for the nuts. And I'll show you why and how, and we're going to attach them. This, all we need really is a razor blade, and if you haven't made the wing nuts, you'll need a screwdriver probably to take the nuts off of there. But as you see, I've got this ready to go. So we're going to take this lens off, and we're going to make this part first. And this will be like the basic lens is going to stay on there all the time. You can take it off again, and you can change it. But if you've got one that you use like you say you use a 5 for everything, just about, and you just need to bump that up a notch here and there, we'll leave the 5 on the headset, and we'll make the 3 the one that we're going to stick back and forth and switch it as we need to. But I would keep this on the outside like you got it, where it slots into that groove there. And when we do the magnets on this side, I'll show you the spacing and it'll work out nicely. I'm going to get that set up and we'll continue. Okay, we're back. So I've moved a few things around here. interesting. You can see the difference in the old lens and the new lens. My lens has got to be 20 years old. This is kind of blue and that's kind of green. But anyway, they still have the same high quality optics. So what we've done here, I have gotten these machine thread 6/32 by 3/8 inch little bolts with nuts. They came with the nuts. If not, you can always buy the nuts separately. But you'll note the nut is pretty big compared to the bolt itself. And does that matter? Not really. What we want to do is we want to use the nut side because I want as much surface area as I can touching the magnets. So I put this lens back on with the new screws. I took off the wing nuts and I threw that one on the floor, and then I'm going to grab this one. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to put it on. These are just finger tight. I'm not going crazy yet. We might adjust them tighter later. So here's our magnets. Please keep away from children. These are dangerous things. You don't want to swallow one ever. Anyway, magnets, real quick tip. Whoops. You'll notice they like to fit together this way nicely. If you flip them, wow, they're strong, around the wrong way, they push away from each other with a lot of force. So when you're lining these up, make sure they are in the attracting position, not the repelling position. Anyway, so what I like to do is I take the whole stack and I'll stick one and peel it off like that. And now, same direction, stick one and peel it off. And if it still attracts, yeah, it does. So if it's going to repel this way, that means I know they're both repelling this way. They're facing the same direction. Could I face them opposite directions? Yes. But if you did that and you put this lens wrong, it may repel and not work nicely. Anyway, that's one strong magnet. Watch out for your razor blades. So, okay, so now we've got this where it fits nicely. What we're going to want to do is keep them from moving, because if you stick the lens on here, this magnet may go with the lens. We don't want that. We're trying to be quick and smooth and nice working here. So what we're going to do is we're going to heat this pipe up a little bit, and we're going to squeeze all this in there. And it doesn't have to be on here. I just wanted to show you how these are going to sit. And then once they're attached, the magnet to the nut, and we've got that squished into this slightly heated up piece of tubing, and then this will shrink back a little bit and hold it nice and snug. What I'm going to do is I'll get the heat gun here in a second. I'll show you how we do this. Once it's in there and we got it nice and level, then we're going to trim it off with the razor blade, nice and smooth on both sides. Anyway, be right back, get the heat gun going, and we'll get that part done. Okay, are we recording again? Yeah, there we go. So, got the heat gun here. This is a extreme. Do you need this much heat? No. Hot water will do the trick. Let it soak in hot water for a little while. Hair dryer would probably work. Try not to burn yourself. Don't get yourself on fire. No reason for that. We're just going to heat this up a little bit and make it kind of pliable. I don't want it to be molten. That's too much. We just need pliable. There we go. See, it's starting to be squeezable. And now I'm not cooking my fingers. This is on low heat on this heat gun. This thing really gets after it, so I gotta be careful. There we go. See, it's getting more and more pliable. We're almost where we want it. We don't want it to melt too much. If it melts too much, then it won't work right. I've also put this on a big bolt because now I have more control. So I'm going to keep it straight in the tube. And the bolt here is just threaded in just enough to hold the nut. See how that is now shrinking around this side? I would squeeze this side a little bit as it cools off. The magnet and the nut are in there, and they are stuck together. The bolt is just enough to touch the magnet. I don't want it to push off the magnet. I want these to stay together. So I'm going to try to keep it straight. Looks pretty good. As this cools down, it will shrink a little bit and grab on. This bolt is just a scrap bolt I had. It's long, it gives me control, which I like. So now I can just gently thread this out of there. Remember, it's magnetic, so it kind of holds. Now there we're inside there. Next, we're going to take our razor blade, maybe, okay, and trim off the excess. This is where you don't have to be perfect. Please don't cut yourself. You can do this on a tabletop, What we're going to do is we're going to make sure it's all the way cooled off first. Because if it's still a little bit gooey, which it kind of is, we don't want this to move. We want this to stay nice and tight in there. And later you'll see why this makes such a big difference. But it does matter. So, and also this needs to be straight. If it starts to tilt, it won't hold well. And we'll see that also. So we're going to turn this off real quick. It seems like it's good enough. And be careful, please don't cut yourself. Do this on a table. It does not have to be exact to the surface of the bolt or the magnet. But the closer you get, the better your connection will be. So I just trim that off. You can go back around and trim it some more. Just kind of slide your blade. Please don't cut yourself. Pay attention. I would do this on a tabletop, but I'm showing you on the camera here. So my nut side is done pretty good. If you can see, I don't know if you can see this, there's a little lip there. I can just trim that off and get it pretty darn close. From this right here is going to thread onto the bolt with its magnet contained inside this plastic tube, polyurethane tube. And well, we can go and do one real quick. So we'll just trim this off the rest of the way. Remember, this is a magnet. It will make it a little more challenging because it likes to move. Bad idea. Here we go. Okay. Just gently cut it down. You don't want to do that. Anyway, so good idea to have a sharp razor blade instead of whatever this is. Okay, so we're just going to gently cut it off because I'm liable to mess it up again. Here we go. Okay, so now we've got one magnet inside there with its little nut. What we're doing isn't trying to make it perfectly glued together or anything. And yes, I have tried to weld it, and guess what? Magnets aren't actually a real metal. At least these aren't. And it welded, but then it immediately broke off like hardened clay or something. It just popped right off there. So that didn't work so good. All right, so on one side we're going to put, whoa, crazy stuff, one of the nuts. Remember that if you tighten this too much, that's why I like this. Also is nice because you can hand tighten these with just your fingers and hold the other side with the finger and then push it. As you get this too tight, if that bolt goes through, it will push the magnet off. However, this size doesn't quite make it through to push the magnet off on the Optivisor. So this is perfect, perfect, perfect. 3/8 inches is the length you want. Machine thread, that doesn't really matter as long as it works with the nuts. The other thing you want to make sure is that the nut is as close to the size of the magnet as you can get it, because it gives you more surface area. It makes it a little bit stronger. The magnets are grabbing everything. Makes it a little bit stronger bond, so you're good to go with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to make 4 of these. I'm just threading this in. As you can see, I can go past it, and then the magnet's going to stick up like this. So if I go too far, I'm going to back it out a little bit. So I just want this as a handle. It doesn't need to hold or push against the magnet. It just needs to keep the nut lined up while I push it into the tube. So we're going to make 4 of these, and then we're going to put them all on here, make sure they're the right polarity as you're going. This one should repel this one, and it does. That way they'll be facing the same. And you're like, well, as you get further into this, you'll see that I'm only using the magnets against the metal to connect the lens to the magnet. So truly, I don't have to have a magnet repel the other magnet or attract the other magnet. But what happens is these little bolts will pick up a magnetic field from being attached to the magnet all day. And I know this because I've done this. Then when you try to put the lens on, it might repel because the magnets weren't the same polarity. So north and south, for example. So if the head of the bolt or nut is attracting to a north magnet and you try to move it to a south magnet, it won't stick as well as quickly. No reason for that. Just make sure they're aligned and it won't be a problem. Okay, on to the next part. Okay, we've got all this put together now. So let's kind of do a quick overview. I've got 2 nut width magnets on the main lens with the flat screws that fit nicely this way. So they're nice and snug. They're not pushing the magnets off, and the magnets are all the same polarity. So repel, repel. Now, on here, they've all stuck together. I've got 2 more nuts with magnets and 2 more screws with them. These are going to go on the top. I have my lens. Any lens will work. You just multiply the 2 magnifications and you'll have the total when they're combined. I got 2 screws, 2 of the original nuts, which we're going to use for spacers, and I'm going to show you, and 2 of the larger size nuts for the magnets. Now, let's see, trick here. We need to mark where to put the holes up here. What I like to do is get this on here, preferably not like this lens. The lenses don't stick out past the frame, so I can put this down here without actually touching the lenses of the plastic. I don't believe it would hurt the lenses anyway, as this is only plastic and the lenses are glass. But if I put them on here and I've got this lined up nicely, I want to make sure it looks nice, because if it's accurate, it's going to look better to someone else who's looking at this going, what's on your visor? And so I'm going to take my little pen, I'm going to make little marks there in order to put the holes. And I can't see those marks. Anyway, so you get the idea. Probably use a mark a lot. This is not working, but we're going to put the 2 holes here first. We're going to put these on, and then I'll show you how to assemble the lens, and we'll be finished. So let me put some holes here and get a better marker. Be right back. Okay, another quick note. I've got a drill bit here to punch the holes. Will the bit fit through the Optivisor hole? Yes. Will it fit through the nut size hole? Not quite. Almost. This tells me I've got the right size, because if it doesn't quite fit through the nut, but it does fit through the hole, it's going to be nice and snug, and I don't want it to wiggle around. So just a real quick note, I'm going to use my little drill press here and punch some holes in this, and we'll be right back. All right, holes drilled. Pretty basic. Just mark the hole. You can use the lens if you're really skilled, but be careful and hold it in place. Now that we've got these holes where we want them, we're going to put these bolts through from the inside, and it's because we want the nuts on the top. Let's see, I can do this. There we go. Okay, so from the inside we're going to put these in, and if they're good and snug, you'll need a screwdriver to get them through. And that is what I need here. Can I do this with, okay, let's see. Perhaps. Hey, maybe. Okay, so we can screw this in here. Goodness, excuse me. All right, so get that in there all the way through. Now you'll note on the top it's going to go too far. We're going to take the one of the magnets that has the nut on the back side. We're just going to thread that on there. To where it is touching the magnet. When it stops there, we want to stop. Remember, if we push it too far, it's going to push that magnet. So this one, we're going to leave this back a little bit. Is there a way to fix that where it's still tight both sides? Yes. You can put a spacer on the inside, or you can snug it down against the plastic like I'm doing here. Oh, sorry, hope I have it in the screen there. Okay. So this works, or you can put a spacer. As you see, there's room in here for a small spacer. If you're going to use a spacer, one of the original black nuts will work nicely. However, if you don't need that and you only have the 2 nuts, I would use them for this lens, and I'll show you why in just a minute. So you're going to put both these on here like that, of course, and you understand how that works. Now on the lens, we're going to put the screw through from the flat side through to the grooved side. On the grooved side, we're going to put the black nut from the original, which is smaller than these others that you get from the hardware store. And we're going to tighten that in gently. We don't need it snug, we just need it, because as you'll see, it doesn't interfere with the lens. Whereas this larger nut will hit the lens side and cause it to tilt sideways and be a problem. So we're going to put the larger nut with the spacer of the smaller nut, and we're going to snug that with our fingers. It can be over the lens, it doesn't matter. This is creating our spacing on the magnets. And we got the right spacing here. So through from the flat side, or the number side as you will. Then on the back side, we're going to put the black nut, and then the silver nut. Can he do it? Yes, there we go, okay. You don't have to snug this. I'm using, as you see, just a little bit, just to make it snug a little bit. We don't need a lot of pressure. The outer cases of these are plastic, and there's no reason to go torque them down, and that's asking for trouble. Okay, so now we've got these on here. We're wanting to tighten this nut against the black one, just finger tight again, but make it snug. Then, as you'll be able to see, this will snap onto here like that. And now I've got the lens, well, multiple lenses. You can see my thumb through there. So you see the magnification there? Take this off, and now you see this regular magnification there. So this is a 5 and a 3, but let me go ahead and put the top one on here. Real quickly. Let's see if I can do this quickly without launching parts everywhere. Okay, let's see what we got here. Oh, here's a little trick. Another thing. If you can't get this in there, if you have a screwdriver and it's bigger than the hole, you can take the screwdriver and just kind of wallow out the hole a little bit. This is plastic after all. It's not super strong. But me personally, I like these to be a little bit on the snug side so that my bolts will stay where I put them. So their tension's about the same. Anyway, sorry, if we can get that in there, or we tighten that up. Coming through the top there, about that far. Got my nut with its magnet and the plastic sleeve that we've been assembled. We've done 4 of those now, and we now have 4 of those magnets with the nuts on the Optivisor. 2 on the main lens and 2 on the top. It should look something like that. And we got your number here for the magnification. Now, here's a fun part we can do. This can go this way, where the lens faces you, the number, I'm sorry, faces both directions, both the same way. Or it can also go this other way, where the lenses face each other. I will note, inside here, you'll see the magnet fits better onto the head of the screw than it does the nut, because this little plastic sleeve is still there, sticking up just a little bit above the edge of the magnets. So is this quicker? Yes. Can it move around a little bit? Yes. Does it affect the magnification? No. It's still nice and clean and easy to see through. But this for me has worked a little bit better. However, as mentioned, it can work either direction. And I like the numbers to be that way. If you have this up here like this, it's a little more unstable. I'm not sure exactly why it does that, but that's how it works. So when this is in use, you can have this on, everything's fine. You need more magnification, you can grab this, just tilt it off, snap it on, it grabs its own self and aligns itself It's very, very close right here without having to do much of anything. And you're ready to use this. Magnification is ready to go. You're done with it. One hand, tilt it off, stick it on up here. And once it grabs, you're done. You don't have to worry about it anymore. It's not going to go anywhere. These magnets are strong, and make sure you put your lens when you set these holes up here so it doesn't hit your head strap. Just because you might tilt it down and knock the lens off, but that wasn't a problem here, but I got pretty close. I could have moved it up a little bit further that way, but there again, that's it. Now I've got two lenses, the ability to double my magnification or more depending on what lenses I'm using. If this is a 1.5 and this is a 2.5, together I have a 4.0 magnification. So that's nice. With a 10 and a 4, I believe I'm close to 6 magnification. Anyway, there you have it. Hope you enjoy. Please be careful if you make one of these. Keep these magnets away from kids, and watch out for the razor blade. Don't cut yourself. And if you're going to use a drill, be careful. All the usual things, just be careful, but enjoy. I hope this works well for someone out there. It does for me. Thanks again.